Just like that, we're on.
All right,
All right.
Candy Can.
Hey, Justin, pleasure to have you on the Candy Can Show. Thank you so much. We got my son here too because he loves sleeping with daddy. He needs to be like on my chest and like I need to stand for him to sleep the longest. And yeah, we're just gonna rock it like this, I think.
I love it. I love it.
Hope that's okay.
Love it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Man, so ever since you got us this crazy bag that's right next to you, we've been sleeping. Man, my wife tells me, yo, change the baby, and I'm deep sleep, and I feel so good, and it's crazy the effect it has, and you came in the perfect timing because we've been on the holistic journey now for a couple of months, maybe 6 months, and yeah, you fit right in. I'm very excited to hear your journey, and also that you work with athletes is really cool because I love that aspect. So yeah, tell me about you.
Well, I think we go way back with a lot of friends in common. Troy Casey, certified health nut.
Love that guy.
Yeah, I love him and his voice and his messaging. Everything about it is so spot on. And then, I mean, I was on Kyle Kingsbury's the Kingsbury podcast as well, and Carrie Clasby, I know of her biodynamic farm in Malibu, and Alex Zach. So we already run in the same community. So I'm stoked to be on with you.
Yeah, all of these people really changed my perspective and my whole worldview, especially Troy. It's crazy because we need to meet people and we need to talk to each other because it really changes your perspective and how you live your life way more than anything else. I feel like this is why I love podcasts because I can finally like sit down with somebody and share the views, and we don't need to agree on everything, but I need to like hear what you've been figuring out so I can like maybe adapt some things to my lifestyle. You know, when Troy told me to like switch off the breakers at night, I've been doing it ever since because I love sleeping with no electricity on.
Nice.
So that's just one of the many things. He was also really big about the home birth, and then we literally had a home birth. So people can change your life. Like you can always, and I'm like COVID vaxxed, boosted, and it's never too late to step back and say, hold on, I don't trust this anymore. People are taking advantage of me. Industries are taking advantage of me, and I can admit to be wrong. I think that's where most people, they're so stuck in their ways. It takes a big person to be like, I did that, I was wrong, and I'm gonna restart kind of that process. Like, what is good for me, what works for me, and who am I?
Yeah, definitely. And Troy and I mean, not many people have as much experience in the space. And so we saw a lot of that coming. So we knew to not, be tricked. But a lot of the stuff we're talking about now and the direction everything's heading is into one of your recent interviews with Gary Lineham. It's all diving into the fascia. And for me, working with professional athletes for almost 30 years with athleticism.com, I mean, it's all going into the fascia work and getting that hydration, getting that minerals back in there, and getting rid of the fascial adhesions that Gary talks about to everyone to help heal. And no matter if you are inundated with a shot or a vaccine or the unlimited other amount of stressors, I know we're going to lean in on EMF, electromagnetic fields, and non-native ones today a lot because we have a product that's the answer to it. But no matter what it is, it's going to be leaning back into fascia and rehydrating yourself so you can keep your life force up and remineralizing your body.
Have you ever been holistic, or what really changed your perspective on life? When were you like when did your trust on like pharma and hospitals and doctors like break?
Well, Candy Cat, I wrote a book, Athleticism, and I kind of covered my whole journey. But when I was 7, my dad got a staph infection in his spine, and they operated on him, and they said he wouldn't live. And then he lived, and then they said, well, if he lives, he's not going to walk again. So he had neurological challenges his whole life. So I saw him going down that Western medicine allopathic lane his whole journey, and it wasn't working. It wasn't just correcting anything. And then my mom was more aware, and she's like, she introduced me to the more Eastern side at age 18. And I got mono, and my body was clogged up from chemicals and glyphosate and all the gluten. I was eating just lots of wheat, and I couldn't flush my body to get it to heal again because I was so clogged up. So seeing what my dad went through early on, and then my own healing journey to restore my vitality, I started looking in alternative ways. Because when I went to the MD, every time I went, I got worse. So when I got mono, there's 3 antibiotics. I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and it just wasn't working. I went to a homeopathic doctor in LA because I grew up here in LA, named Dr. Steven Steitler. And literally the next day, my sinuses were draining like a river. The pressure was relieved and my vitality started coming back. And he was sitting across from me at a table, muscle testing, doing applied kinesiology, not even testing me. I'm this cocky kid, athlete, grew up in LA, tennis player. And I'm going, what's this guy doing right across from me? This is crazy. And so I'm like, okay, I feel crappy. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to do what he says. And then he's telling me I'm allergic to all these foods. And I'm like, well, what do I eat then? Because I had this normal intake of someone that grew up in, Southern California. You're eating, just crappy food, pizzas and fried chickens, and nothing was great, but I thought it was good. I thought I was getting decent food, but it really wasn't. It turns out to. And I saw it early on. That's where I got into doing applied kinesiology and muscle testing, and then understanding what intake is really optimal for the body.
And then when did you come out with your book?
Oh, that's been several years now. I published it.
Yeah.
And then just wrote the Grounded by Nature more recently. That one came out this year.
Yeah. I really like the Grounded by Nature because it's very it's very rare that you get something in your hands that gives you like almost like an aggressive path. Because what I hate nowadays is that people are like when you say like men are stronger than women, then they're like, well, there's this one woman that is stronger than this one man. Yes, of course, but you could also just say things as they are, and people are always just talking around things. And like when you say like I don't know, like the pill for is bad for women, then they're like, well, no, it will work, or it might be good for that 1 out of 1 million women, and that's just not the case. And I love when you get a paper in the hand that is very like, don't do this, do that, stay away from this, and I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
It's short and sweet and direct, but it really covers the electromagnetic radiation, 5G, the physics, protocols, and protection.
Yeah. Do you want to go into the EMF?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, we're sitting here. You have Raw on your body right now, and so we have this baby. What's the age?
5 months.
Okay, so 5 months. So fetus on into the kids, they don't have their skull fully developed. Their blood-brain barrier is not fully developed. They don't have the defense mechanisms to fend off millimeter waves. And so you're in a really more healthier, like resilient state. And I'm over 50, so everything changes when you get to that spot. But what I always want to ask is to understand electromagnetic radiation, invisible stressors. I always want to ask people about their environment and what do you think your environment is and how do you feel it affects you?
Well, I don't know. Living in LA, it seems like everything is toxic.
Yeah.
It starts with what they spray on our food, the radio towers, the Wi-Fi, the polyester in the clothes. The list goes on and on. I mean, we just switched to plant paper, a toilet paper that doesn't use bleach and crazy like forever chemicals that go right in your butt.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think in the beginning it's really overwhelming. It's like you don't want it to be true because you just want to keep eating it in and out and watching your Netflix and like it's hard. Like I think I stepped away and then I stepped in it again because like it is so overwhelming to realize that everything is just here to make profit. It almost becomes like demonic where you just like have to hide and protect your energy and your health and your physique. But I think when you have children, this responsibility, it becomes like undeniable. When I wasn't a dad, I just didn't care. You just go through the world and you eat all the garbage and you're cocky, like you're a cocky little man that thinks he owns the world. You're
Right. Invincible.
Yeah, invincible, and you are kind of, because you can get away with a lot of shit.
Right.
But when you have, like you said, this little human who fully is like, he'll die an hour without me or a couple hours without me. Like he needs me, he needs his mom, and he needs us to nourish him and protect him from everything. I think once this responsibility sinks in, there's no other way than to educate yourself, because now you're responsible for somebody.
Well said. And I really feel, being in the health space for so long, it's my responsibility to share this information, and I feel it'll be really well received. And that's one of my superpowers, Candy Can, is to share what is intangible and make it really quantifiable and palatable and tangible for somebody. And especially with electromagnetic radiation. So when we're looking at our environment, it can kill us instantly, or it can allow us to thrive and be just incredible. And when I want to talk about is, what is our air? And let's start about with the air as our environment, and we'll lean in on that part. Our air consists of waves and particles, and that's how we're able to communicate. And we can say it's there's ether and the plasma in it as well. And so basically, that is our environment, and that is what we are one with. We're one with the resonances in that environment. And they're unpolarized waveforms, which are what travels through that air, ether, plasma. Unpolarized. So basically, if you're looking at the resonances of the atmosphere, whether it's a comet, a solar flare, a cosmic shift, they're shifts in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere, but they're unpolarized. They distribute equally in every direction. Now, our bodies still adapt to those, and we've seen that a lot before 1918, before 1889, when we introduced electricity into homes. And a lot of people would adapt and have signs of dis-ease when those events occurred. Now, ever since we put electricity in the homes, everything's really changed because all electricity, all wireless, they're all one-directional polarizing waveforms, or they don't work. So there's a big difference, Candy Can, between something that distributes equally in every direction and something that's polarizing one-directional for our body.
That must be why I always loved being like a Boy Scout and sleeping in a tent. There's nothing like sleeping in like the middle of a forest and eating from a fire. It's just hard these days because you kind of need to use the social media and to make a living, and we've created this whole following, and our job is like on these devices. So it's hard to turn your back on humanity and just live in the forest. So I feel like this book really helps because you need some sort of balance, because otherwise it will destroy you. So you need to like kind of like push against this unnatural electric life kind of.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things to this. And I really feel we want to develop a relationship with technology and understanding of it. From there, when we can identify what the stressors are, we can start to identify usage protocols and basically understand how we interact with this. So there's the goal is to coexist with non-native electromagnetic radiation because it's not going away. Yeah. It's not to hide. So how do we establish a relationship where we know the usage protocols of using it, we can identify everything, and we can create that coherence within our environment? Because there's this cool thing called physics where we can convert a one-directional waveform into something that's unpolarized. So we can flip that polarizing radiation that's all around us and turn it into something that's beneficial and that our bodies accept. And that's what nature does just innately for us. And so that's why I look to nature's resonance when we were looking at the grounding bags, because nature has all the answers. Nature is one of the most missed elements for healing, just to get out into nature and get grounded by her resonance.
And what's in the bag?
It's hand mined crystals. It's the Schumann resonance essentially in a bag. So it's just like walking barefoot in a bag. So we hand mine crystals. The crystals have moisture and magnetic properties. So they're stronger than shungite, amethyst, all the other known crystals that have magnetic resonances. But these have moisture with the magnetic. And so at Human Garage event in LA, we had them out on a table and we were partially in the sun. We were shaded by a tree, but it was a hot day. And so you could see the moisture come out through, because I when you open them up, and you're supposed to use them as is, you keep it sealed, you don't open them, but I display the inner bag and it has a window in it so you could see the crystals, and I'll show you in a minute. But you could see the moisture started to leach out of the crystals because of the heat of it. And that's why they're alive. They're so different than anything anyone's ever seen. And when you bring that resonance into your home, it grounds you. It has that grounding effect, and it creates a coherence where Dr. Berlando, alphavedic.com, ALFAVEDIC, one of our favorite guys. I'm going to introduce you, and you got to have him on as well. He's just absolutely brilliant. And he did a waveform test. So he has these antennas, Candy Can, that measure your chi or any distortion in your chi. And from there, he could tell you what's going on with your body, more precisely than with blood markers. So when we put the grounding bags around his patients, and he did a third-party independent test, I wasn't there, I didn't have anything to do with it, the grounding bags clinically passively treated up to 91% of the markers that were off. That's absolutely incredible. So he'd never seen any product that can really create that harmony back in our system passively.
And you put them next to your bed?
Yeah, you'll put it on your bed.
Yeah.
On or under at the head of the bed. And you put 5 together, clear 2,000 square feet of your home. 7 if you have solar on your home. 7 if you're driving an electric car.
Yeah. I have one in my car too.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have one in our handbag of my wife's, always with us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so basically what we're looking at is the resonance of the earth. Mm-hmm. And how much of that resonance can we bring into our home to create the coherence? Because let's talk about how our sleep is. And I'm going to go through a few steps. So stay with me on this train of thought, because when we're understanding waveforms, let's turn it into a wave per second so everyone can understand. Let's measure all these different things in waves per second. So the Schumann resonance of the earth, the healing pulse of the earth, hand mined crystals. I'll show you what they look like. Are you familiar with the Schumann resonance?
No.
Okay, so the Schumann resonance was named after a guy's last name is Schumann, but figured out the Earth has a healing pulse, and they measured it in a wave per second. Oh, they measured it in hertz. It's 7.83 hertz, or waves per second. So these are hand mine crystals. It's the healing pulse of the Earth, about 7.83 hertz converted to 7.83 waves per second. That's the resonance that these guys kick off. That's the healing pulse of Earth. So when people talk about earthing and grounding, getting out into nature, you're pulling in the negative ionic charge. You're grabbing those electrons to support your electron transport chain, which gives you energy. And that feeds your body. Our body gets nourished from that. That's why Gary will say you don't have to eat. We eat too much. We get nourishment from nature in so many different ways. So one of the ways is from the resonance of the Earth, the negative ionic charge of the Earth. Okay, that is at 7.83 hertz. Now, second step, are you familiar with the delta or theta, the brainwave states when we're sleeping, or an alpha state when we're in a flow state when you're an athlete and you can't miss, you're in the zone?
Not too much.
Okay. So they measure these waves. You get an EEG, they can measure the brainwave state and how fast the brainwave is revving. So when you're sleeping, obviously it's going to be lower and slower because you're in a restorative state, right? Lower and slower speed of waves and wavelengths. And so they measure a delta or theta. Delta is like 1 or below 1 to 4 hertz or waves per second. The theta, Einstein would fall asleep and hold something and he would drop it, and he would drop it to get into that theta state because that's the most creative lucid dreaming state where he can start to just create. And that's 4 to 8 hertz or waves per second. An alpha brainwave state where athletes, they're in the flow, they're in the zone, they can't miss. That brainwave state is basically 8 to 13 hertz or waves per second. So our brain has certain waveforms when they're in certain states, and you're more alert, you're more awake, you're in the gamma and beta and all these other waveforms that are higher and faster waves. Now, let's go into these cell phones here. These cell phones, these guys are measured at a 4G. 4G phones are measured at 2.45 gigahertz. That correlates to 2.45 billion waves per second that this is emitting. That's a lot. 5G goes from 60 to 90 billion waves per second. Telecom has the opportunity to broadcast, and they talk about 67G, all these next ones that they are starting to plant seeds about. They can go up to 300 gigahertz, 300 billion waves per second. Remember, just with 4G alone, that's a 10-0 delta between how we rev, sleep, and optimize. So we're basically being zapped. And the other part, candy can, is 2.45 billion waves per second is the lowest and slowest bandwidth that destructures water in our body. So that's why Human Garage, and we're talking about being dehydrated at epidemic proportions. It's because our environment is being dehydrated from all the radiation and satellites. Our body internally is being dehydrated and demineralized from EMFs from all the chemicals, from chemtrails, barium, strontium being dropped. And these polarizing waveforms at 10 zeros faster destructure our water. And then when they only get faster, it's only worse. So if we're supposed to sleep at 1 or below 1 to 8 waves per second, and we have this right next to us at the head of our bed, we don't typically get into a deep restorative sleep in that phase.
So these like teenage girls that sleep with their phone under their pillow, you just become a zombie.
Well, you're going into a twilight sleep, so they're not getting the deep restorative sleep. So it's messing with their mitochondria, their energy levels. It's the sleep challenges. Let's talk about the sleep challenges for a second. Destructures water, so it's basically dehydrating you. You go into a twilight sleep because your brain tries to figure out what that bandwidth is that's pinging it. And so you don't get into that deep restorative sleep when you wake up. And from there, it calcifies your pineal gland. So what happens with that is that's going to regulate a lot of you connecting to God and getting these lucid dreams. It's an endocrine disruptor, so it's messing with your hormones as well. So these women that are seeing hypothyroid and all these other challenges, early menopause, like my wife saw, it's all EMF related. It's all environmental related. This is a crazy story. My wife was in her late 40s, and she was going through menopause, like early menopause. She woke up every night for 3 months straight, sweating profusely, couldn't sleep. And her menstrual cycle stopped for 3 months. And I found the grounding bags and I brought them into our home, and everything normalized. And so that was the aha moment where I knew we had something really special, because her cycle returned after 3 months of not having it, and she started to sleep through the night. That is the power of nature healing us. And you can see it during those phases of life where you can start to see the aging process unfold through those symptoms of no sleep.
Can you list some things how you can control the phone use and the EMF from the iPhone?
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, there's a lot of parts to that. The first thing is not to fear it.
Yeah. What do you do for staying as healthy as possible?
Definitely, yeah. I have usage protocols and proximity protocols. So when I'm using it, I use it and it's away from me, at least a foot away from me. It's always on pointed away, because this end is a weapon. This is where all the signals go in and out of the top part. And you have 5 basically guns pointing out of the top, and the bottom's a speaker. So you always want to point it away from you when you use it. So you have cellular, Bluetooth, wireless, GPS on here, and then you have the ultra broadband spectrum, which is where they have all the aggregation of information for surveillance marketing. So with that, I pointed away. I've also gone into every app. I take off in privacy and settings, I take off location finders. I've gone into every app and turned off all their tracking, because each app has about 1 to 15 trackers that they track everything, your gait, how fast you drive. They know your bank accounts. They know everything you ever needed to know about somebody. Just your bank app alone knows everything about you. So I've turned all those settings off. So it saves the life of my battery, because they're not aggregating all my information at record speeds. So from there, I also, when I'm not using it, right now, it's on airplane mode. So all those tracking apps are off. It's on airplane mode. We can also put it in a Faraday bag, or our EMF Rocks Faraday bag, where frequencies go in and out. So sometimes if I want to take a call, But I don't want to be inundated with the stressors of millimeter waves just always pinging. Then I'll throw it in the Faraday bag and my phone most likely will still ring in there. Frequencies go in and out of it, so it dampens the signal strength to what our body considers safe levels through applied kinesiology, muscle testing. And then with a meter, I could get a wireless meter and measure it, and it drops the millimeter waves to safe levels. So we can throw it in a Faraday bag. The other protocols with it is to really get technology out of your bedroom at night, as you mentioned, and understand those types of protocols. So you want to get really the resonance of your home as low and slow and as close to nature's resonance as you can. That is the ultimate goal for everybody. Not just when you're sleeping, but all the time. Avoid putting laptops on your lap. I mean, those are over your reproductive organs. You're having basically a massive battery, and multiple routers over reproductive organs. A laptop is probably one of the most evil products ever made and marketed for that. And probably the second one is probably an electric car, because people driving those are sitting on a massive battery, and that's 18% lower testosterone, is what a colleague measured with military special forces. 18% lower testosterone across the board. It was the single biggest blood marker change out of all of this whole pool of testing.
Jesus Christ. So do you think it's all about profit, or do you think there is evil behind making all these men, like everything is full of estrogens, hormone disruptor? I mean, from the perfume to the polyester to the batteries in the Teslas, everything is trying to make you less of a man. Is that an evil plan, or is it just because that makes the most amount of money?
I feel the first out of the gate, it's a money thing. And then I feel the money will start to see the greed come in, and that's where the evil will come in. Everyone knows there's evil out there for sure. I look at it more as just a money and a power thing out of the gate. And then there is a lot of evil, but I just feel it's money and power right out of the gates, because everyone can make technology safer for us. It should run on DC current, not AC. And that it was a choice made years ago. Check out the book, The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg. It categorized the history of electricity and life. It directly correlates every shift in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere to the health challenges that we've seen. And like I mentioned before we put electricity in our homes, there were cosmic shifts, atmospheric pressure shifts, solar flares. That's where our bodies adapted. After that, at 1889, we put electricity in the home. They called the flu before that time frame, because it would fly in and fly out with those cosmic shifts. And until we brought electricity into the home, then the flu was here to stay. That's a crazy stat. Now, 1889, we rolled out radio waves for the first time on a mass broad spectrum. That correlates with the Spanish flu durations. And then World War II, radar, Hong Kong flu, satellites. And these are years of them launching satellites. In the history, he categorizes everything, documents it. It's one of the most well-referenced and bibliographied book I've ever seen. It's about 150-page bibliography. And then everyone knows what transpired the last several years. We rolled out 5G, and they call this thing called COVID. So there's direct correlations between our environment being stressed and our bodies adapting to that stressor.
What else do you? I mean, your book makes it perfectly clear, but what else can people take away for first steps? You mentioned everything about the phone and the cars. What else?
Oh, goodness sake, you guys, we just got to understand this stuff. So the first thing I would say, Candy Can, is I recommend everyone go get a meter.
A EMF meter?
EMF meter. Get a meter because the meters can tell you what I'm telling you. And what they're going to do is they're going to digitally show you a readout of the stressors, number one. Number two, they're going to make a ton of noise when there's a stressor in the area. That noise that the meter reads is what our bodies hear that most humans can't hear. And the animals can hear it. Your cats can hear it, right? The marine life we talked about earlier before we jumped on air, we want to dive into, but they can hear it really well underwater. Most humans don't hear it, but our bodies feel it. Our nervous system feels it. Our tissues feel it and the dehydration of it. So I would lean in on everyone getting an electromagnetic field or radiation meter. Then there's 3 different types. You can get a milligauss meter. That meters 50 to 60 hertz or waves per second. Meters electricity. Then you can get, and you can get a lot of them in one. Then you get a Stetzer electric meter. This one is really special because you plug it in the wall and it measures the amps to the volts and any static in the line. Dirty electricity is probably one of the most challenging because it's measured in 4,000 to hundreds of thousands of waves per second of a spectrum. So it's this mid-range spectrum of a wavelength where there's static in the line. And when there's static in the line, that's really challenging for our bodies to heal because you'll see clusters of dirty electricity. There's books on it. And so super challenging for us. So get a Stetzer electric meter, plug it in the wall. It should read 100 or below. Most homes will read probably about 300 or so, which is okay for me. And every home I've metered with solar on it, especially when they're capturing their own energy with a battery on their home, it's over 1,000 to 1,600. So 10 times the allowable amount with solar on someone's home. And my friend just got one of those cyber trucks and they have the outlet. So I'm going to do a post. I'm going to test what the health of these cars are wired. And I already know it's going to be scary, unhealthy. So the third thing is to get a wireless meter, acoustometer. And that measures the wireless signals. Those signals go from 50 million on into the billions. Now, I have a meter that goes up to 8 gigahertz. That's the highest one I have. Every time I point it at a phone or a device, it meters out. The signals emitting from these devices are already too strong for the meters to read. That's crazy. So we're relying literally right now, our health, on what the FCC is emitting out there because we don't know what levels that cell tower emits. We don't know what levels these guys are emitting. It's all what telecom just decides. Hey, let's ratchet it up. Let's turn it up right now. Let's turn this up right now. Holy smokes, we have no idea. That's why last summer, I live in Laguna Beach, California, probably arguably one of the healthiest regions of the world. Everyone's outside in nature, in the water, on the beach, eating organic, eating healthy. A lot of people got sick. And so for me, there's no scratch in their head. I'm like, okay, they rolled out a bunch of new satellites. They ratcheted it up. Our environment was stressed and they just needed to adapt to it at that time. That's what transpires. So I look at grabbing those meters and quantifying what's in your environment.
And then would you also recommend just I don't know, when I was in Texas I met these people that like spend like 300 days out of their year in the woods. Would obviously I can't do that. with what I've got going on. But would you recommend at least trying to have some sort of vacation from the cities, from all this like electricity, and plan some sort of like a couple days every month where you're just no cell phone and you go and you camp somewhere?
Definitely. There's never, well, let me say it this way. You can never get enough good of nature.
Yeah.
So whenever you can get out into nature, do it. Even if it's walking the dog or the cat in the morning outside barefoot, do it. You don't have to plan these lavish getaways for weeks at a time. Make it a lifestyle. Make it part of your daily routine. Definitely in the morning, definitely at night. Good. Go touch a tree, get barefoot, put yourself in a body of water. We talked about this off air too. I'm big in the water. I'm a waterman. I'm in the ocean all the time, and no wetsuit. I surf, I free dive, I do open water ocean swims. I'm in there all the time. I'm putting in the work. Like, you got to put in the work. I put in a whole day's worth of work yesterday at the beach, literally walking the dog, playing beach volleyball, and in the ocean, diving, surfing, swimming. That's what I've been doing. I'm putting in the work. So you guys, get out there, put in the work, feed that body those nutrients. And then you don't have to go on these lavish trips. But remember the 5 components of how our body recharges from nature. So a battery, a car battery, if it runs out of water, what happens to the battery?
It dies.
It dies, right? So we have several more mechanisms where our body doesn't die. So the way it gets fed is, like I said, from the Earth's resonance. We pull the negative ion charge, supports that electron transport chain. We get the minerals and nutrients from the sun. It's unpolarized. It distributes equally in every direction, right? Those are those scalar waves that I talked about in the beginning. There's a name for those waves. They're unpolarized. Same as the resonance of the Earth. You're not standing in it here and then out of it over here. It's a resonance across the entire Earth surface. And those unpolarized waves are really the similar from the resonance coming off of every living organism. So we get it from the Earth, we get it from the sun. We hopefully get it from our food, right? We eat good quality food. Dr. Zach Bush, one of my friends, will say, you get it from the air and breathing in those microbiomes. So that's what's really important. You get the colors, the nutrients, the sounds, the senses from the air. And then we put it all together with the water. And we get the structure of the water, which is a Fibonacci sequence, which basically means it's like it's those 2 numbers add into the next number, and those 2 numbers add into the next number. So if it's a 3 and then a 5, then the next one's an 8, and so on. So that's what a Fibonacci sequence is. It's a spiraling sequence. If it looks like, it's like a honeycomb shape. So we get that structure from the water, and we pull in the minerals from that as well. If we're missing any one of those 5 elements, our body battery becomes compromised and decharged, and we become a gateway for dis-ease in our body.
And what do you do with athletes? What's your work with athletes?
So when I started athleticism.com in the late 1990s, I was a performance coach, basically speed training, coordination, ambidexterity, whole body, whole brain, stretching therapy, nervous system work, do primal reflex stuff. It was all nerve related, coordination related. And it's evolved into me treating the athletes and doing more fascia work and using light, sound, frequency, vibration to healing. I treat concussions. But we have still today, one of the coolest sports performance programs that crosses over multiple sports. That's when you're doing the sports stuff, it's run, jump, coordination, rhythms. And then when we go into treatments, it's all therapies, joint stability, integrity. And then the treatment side would be injury prevention, recovery. So you're only as strong as your weakest link for an athlete. So what I've honed in on are the weak links. And when we're talking about EMF, the weak links for the body are the eyes, the teeth, the thymus, and the intestine. And this is pretty crazy because about over a dozen years ago, one of our athletes was wearing a wearable technology, he had a smartwatch on his wrist. And these guys were getting huge contrasts, rolling up in Denali's and sound systems and just blinging out when they'd get these signing bonus. We had first round draft picks, MLB guys, just dozens of them, coming in. And anyhow, one of them was like, Justin, my wrist, I got a pain on my wrist. And I said, really? I said, where? And he pointed right to where the watch was. And I had recently read that the Fitbits were being recalled. And I was like, well, that's a little too much radiation on the wrist. I said, hey, that's radiation on your wrist. Why don't you take that off your wrist? And so he takes it off and the pain goes away. And then we got his arm to start to function shortly thereafter. And so that was the aha moment for me where I wanted to look into this athlete pool and understand our environment and how they're affected from the environment. Because these guys are the healthiest, strongest, fittest guys at their prime, and they're getting chipped away. That's it. That's the electromagnetic sensitivity is what he experienced. So I wanted to lean in on that and understand more about that. Why is someone more sensitive? And I was one of those sensitive people. When I was younger, I'd talk on a phone too long with a girlfriend and my ear would ache. And I'm going, wait, what's wrong? And I remember distinctly asking my parents, hey, what's going on with this phone? My ear aches. I just had it like pressed to the phone. And when you're young, this is glued to every word that someone's going to say. And after hours on the phone, I had a sensation there. It was like it ached. And I knew it wasn't right. And I'm like, what's up with this? They're like, oh, it's fine. It's just electricity. It's corded in. And then years later, I took an internship in a real estate firm and they stuck me around a copy machine. And I was making copies for these brokers all day long. I would pull the paper off the X-ray machine, which is ionized radiation, and my fingertips would burn. And if I pull them off fast enough, I'm like, okay, it's okay, hot, hot, hot. And it was just like little burns, little burns, little burns. Well, now 30 plus years later, I have nerve sensitivity. So I carry a stylus around so I can use a touchscreen. And I feel the next generation of kids will most likely, a major percentage of the kids in the next generation will have nerve sensitivity on their fingertips because all they do, is use their finger as a stylus all day. And now all their computers are wireless. It's all laptops or they're walking around their school all day long. So at school, they have routers on them with the iPads. And then they're basically on their devices all the time, using their cell phone all the time with their finger. So it's just too much for the body to handle. And I was a prime example of that with that.
Man, that's crazy. I used to have wrist pain. And I also had a device on there which constantly connects to my phone via Bluetooth. And I would always feel a little achy, and I thought it was from something else. But when I stopped wearing it, and I would always be like, why do I hate things around my wrist? I would have this like how you say with the phone. I would also hate when it gets hot on your ear. Like you have this intuition, like it's not good for you, but you still kind of do it. But you know like that it can't be good for you.
Definitely. And I know it is. And now I can quantify it that it's radiation. And they're polarized one directional waveforms that are 10 zeros faster than how we sleep, rev, and optimize. Dr. Martin Paul's work out of Washington State University, he talks about the voltage gated calcium channels breaking down. So that's positive calcium going into a negative cell. So there's excess calcium. What happens there is it messes with the mitochondria. So the voltage gated calcium channels, let's break down those four big words. It's a gateway for your mitochondria to derive energy, is disrupted right out of the gates with low level radiation. So even with electricity, that's where we see the vibration. That's why the flu is here to stay. Cancer, suicide, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, which is now type 3 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and infertility have all gone up on the bar graph since 140 years ago when we put electricity into the homes. What is going to happen in the next 140 years when we've gone from a low level waveform to now really fast polarizing one directional waveforms? It can be a very challenging future for a lot of people unless we build our life force up, get grounded by nature, do your fascia maneuvers, start hydrating, and have usage and proximity protocols. And then when you're in your devices and on your devices in your homes, use our EMF rocks, grounding bags, and get grounded by nature as much as you can.
So, what do you do personally in your home with your electricity?
Oh, it goes off every night.
Every night?
When we're sleeping. Yeah,
Okay.
we had an electrician come in and put a timer on the electrical panel.
Yeah.
All the electricity in the bedrooms go off at night.
Does the there's a lot of religious, the Jewish community, don't they turn off electricity and they don't use cars at a certain amount of time at 5 o'clock? I remember when I would walk around, you would see them not using their cars, and I also heard, I'm not too familiar, but I feel like they also don't use electricity on a certain day in the week.
Yeah, I think it's Saturday
Yeah.
for them. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with their religion, but the little that I know is I think Saturday is their day.
Yeah, but it almost seems like a detox where they know they gotta have at least one day in the week to not use that.
Well, definitely. And I have to give props. I was coming to LA, and when everyone was locked down, I would drive up here and see some of my colleagues. There would be the rabbis walking around the streets with no mask on. And they were the only ones. I'm like, thank you, God, I love these guys. Because obviously, if you're connected to God, you know that you're going to be okay. Like, no matter what happens. And so they weren't going to put something over their face. There's no way. So in LA, during the middle of all this stuff, they were the one group that, outside of me, that would not wear a mask wherever they went.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more ridiculous than walking around alone with a mask on or sitting alone in a car. I feel like but you still see those people. It's almost like there's some sort of comfort to covering your whole face. They just won't take it off.
It's 3% lower oxygen for the body. And it puts you in a sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. You're in a fear mode. You're not in growth mode. You're either in expansion mode or you're not. And when you have that on your face, you're not. So it doesn't do anything to protect against smoke and a fire. Viruses aren't the cause of dis-ease, number one. So that's a whole different topic. But basically, we're built on viruses, fungus, and bacteria. We wouldn't be here without them. There are firemen at every fire. They're not the bad guys. They're our adaptive system at work.
I know that's what Troy used to explain to me, is that you don't need to detox your body, because you and viruses and bacteria, you live all along each other. You work with each other. You live alongside. There's no need to like get every parasite out of your body. But the environment is what is harming you. The environment that you're like constantly, you look at this, bro. I go to Runyon Canyon, right? And I feel like people are like, they want to be healthy, they want to take a walk, they take their dog, right? They have their AirPods in their ear, their sunglasses on their head, and they walking with their device right in front of them up Running Canyon, in their polyester full leggings, or even a hoodie or sweatshirt to completely cover yourself from the sun. And that's how they walk, do their walk. And I am baffled. Like I cannot, I don't know what to say because I'm just there with my son strapped on me, fully. I'm always trying to like expose myself to the sun as much as possible. I leave my phone at home, and I just go, and it's incredible. You see it once you start seeing it. You see it everywhere. How people are getting fed by their devices. They're like the cattle. They're just like swiping their life away, and it seems like almost this like evil plan of where people say that World War III is online. It's in your phone. It's you're bound in, and it's the fight on the narrative on what is not even affecting you, because you're just being toxified at all levels.
All levels. And then plus they have sunscreen on, probably.
Oh yeah.
That's just full of chemicals. And then they're blaming the sun for cancer, but they're full of toxicity all, and they probably drove up an electric car as well. And that earbud in their inner ear, that's an airway canal essentially directly to their brain. There's not a skull blocking it.
Yeah.
So you have localized radiation in your inner ear. That's not a great recipe for success, for sure. Yeah, it's wild, the cognitive dissonance that we're seeing out there, the lack of awareness. And I know with your audience that this message will be really well received on just boosting the awareness for everyone.
So, man, I have to tell you this. We just got a Cybertruck. So what do I do, man? I just love this fucking car. It's so sad because it's so cool, but obviously, uh, it has its vices. So is putting this bag in there enough? Or obviously we I use it for like 4 minutes, 5 minutes at a time. I don't sit there for an hour on this battery, ever. Like I don't, maybe 30 minutes to the valley and back. That's about it. And I try to not sit in it as much as I can. Um, but how would I protect myself from that battery?
Well, essentially, what I'm saying now, we're testing out of 7 grounding bags per electric car.
7?
7 of them. And you might need more because of your kids and their age,
Yeah.
if they're in the car. And unfortunately, you and your wife, maybe not so much worried about it with the bags in the car. But what I'm testing is 18% lower testosterone because you're sitting on the massive battery. The whole thing's electric. And but every car is. So you have all the electricity, from the front dashboard, the big computer screen. I mean, all the noises the thing makes, you can make the car do anything. And so there's multiple computers, over 7 computers in every new car, especially that one. And then it's self-driving, there's wireless signals going all around it. So it's just a lot. You have all 3 at the highest level in a close proximity. I know they're cool trucks. What they did is they're actually a pickup truck floorboard. So the only thing they really changed is the shell. But it's really as similar as a pickup truck from what I've seen. So for me, I'm not a fan of them. I would not drive those cars because I am more sensitive. I'm in a different bracket than you are for age and such. I know too much about electricity, and it's too important for me to understand our environment and how it affects us. Even if we can create a coherence with our EMF rocks and our grounding bags, that's great. It would be for a short period of time, but the first thing I recommend is everyone to get away from the stressors, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that would say, hey, get away from the car and go
so like an older car.
older combustion engine car with not as much EMF in it,
Yeah.
only just Bluetooth, not Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and GPS, and not something that you can basically they can shut down on you. I mean, that's the other part of these cars is the whole messaging can behind what the industries are doing for getting us so comfortable with not using keys, not being able to be reliant on ourselves and have full autonomy. If you're having a computer or you can control it from your phone and they can control your phone, you can't just grab a car key and turn on your car and fill it up with gas and you're off. Like it just, we're becoming too comfortable. And these are tests to shift us into this in the future. And it might not happen in my lifetime, but the direction that this stuff is going isn't enhancing. And so for me, I want to slow that down from my purchase power and to say, hey guys, you can make something really cool, I'll buy it, but not at all costs. It's kind of like, hey, I love capitalism, but not at all costs. Like understand what you're doing. And if, unfortunately, a lot of industries and most all of them don't look at things like I do.
Would it be possible to connect to the internet just through wires and not have like Ethernet, I guess?
Yes.
Yes, right? Where you don't need your iPhone and you have something that is like stationary.
Hardwired. Yes.
Yeah. Is there, I guess there is no, like you always said, like it's all about the profit. It's not very profitable to come up with a company that would create these sort of devices. But it seems like if you're very sensitive, or you have very small children, it would be like very positive to have something hardwired.
Definitely. And you can hardwire your cell phones. You get a router and a USB adapter and you can plug it in the phone. You can hardwire every computer. Fiber optic, which is basically the cable, which is Ethernet, there's different types, but it's faster, it's safer security-wise. People can't hack you as easily. It's more reliable, and there's minimal health challenges. So we spent so much money investing in hardwiring things, and now we've gone away from it for comfort and use. Oh, it's so easy just to have something in my ear. Well, we got to really unlearn everything that we've been taught in every major industry and look at what health really is. Now, there's times where it's like, okay, I want to eat a bag of chips and, that might not be enhancing. There's times where we're going to use some of these things that aren't enhancing. No big deal. But when we're inundating all of them at record speeds all the time, it's going to be challenging over a decade. What I've seen with guys driving electric cars, 10-year mark, their bodies break down. What I've seen with people living in toxic homes with electromagnetic radiation at high levels, whether it's dirty electricity or wireless, 10 years is the breaking point. Every major health challenge that I listed before, the bigs, cancer, suicide, diabetes, and all, I've seen every single one of them in the last 12 plus years looking into correlations between my client's environment and their health challenges.
What else do you do that people might not know? Any other hacks?
Oh, man. So basically, let's look at the lighting and the circadian rhythm as another really important genre and topic to everyone should know about. Our bodies have natural rhythms where we wake up with the sunlight, we go to sleep when it goes sundown. We want to get our bodies into those circadian rhythms. So the false lighting, blue lighting, LED lighting, all that stuff, those are really challenging for the rhythms of our body. Not to mention that the new LED lights have transformers in them that kick off a lot of dirty electricity. So go back to incandescent lighting essentially is the answer. But you want to create an environment that's conducive to outside. So when you wake up in the morning, your first eyesight is on blue light outside, so your body knows that it's daytime. And then the melatonin productions happens at night. So if you're on a massive screen, you have this giant big screen TV and you're watching movies till midnight, your body thinks it's daytime for several hours after you turn the TV off. It just doesn't shut down instantly. So I would know that, but then use blue light blocking glasses if you're doing that. I like getting into rhythms with it. So I walk in the morning, I'll walk at night. I'll do fascial maneuvers in the morning, I'll do fascial maneuvers at night. Get into these rhythms and patterns and get out of the meta universe. Get out of something telling you when to sleep, when to eat, when to exercise, how much you did in your exercise, how many steps to take. Stop that. We want to know and get connected with God and know how we feel, how we slept. That's what we want to lean into. And when you can get into these natural rhythms of our body, it's so much easier to do that.
Do you fly do you go on airplanes?
I do. And I carry the grounding bags with me. And this is a wild story. So one of our clients in Newport Beach, Port Streets, it was like an Aaron Brockovich situation where the entire neighborhood was cross-gridded and wired improperly from the gas and electric company. So there were clusters of really unhealthy streets where we would drive down the street with our meter out the window, and it was metering upwards of 60 milligauss just driving down the street. It should be 1 or below. 60. So there was cancer, there was suicide from a high school kid just several years ago. There were autoimmune, like there are clusters. One of my clients got childhood diabetes. And because the mom's like, we're all breaking down. We can't sleep. What's going on? I heard you're looking at EMFs. Come check out our house. Highest level of EMF I'd seen, and dirty electricity. They had a transformer in their backyard that powered 12 homes. That wasn't grounded right. It was all cross-wired around the house, and it was kicking off really high milligauss as well. So they had multiple levels of stressors. And I said, you guys, why don't you check out, do a vacation, and we'll fix the house up and figure out the wiring. So the mom, ironically enough, they got smartwatches. She got one, and she got one for her child, the 12-year-old that got diabetes. She wanted to measure their glucose. She didn't want her son dying on her. So, but it's ironic that you're using that same thing that caused the diabetes to save the life now. Anyhow, they jump on the airplane. Everyone there flew to Fiji. Wealthy family, they're going on a family vacation. And it's a really long flight from Orange County to Fiji. So the first leg, when everyone turned on their Wi-Fi, the kid sitting right next to his mom, not eating a thing, his glucose level spiked 200 points and he gets a bloody nose. And the mom's watching it, reading, looking at it, looking all around, seeing everyone's, oh, you can use your Wi-Fi now. And everyone's using their devices. You have hundreds of people on the plane, all billions of waves per second times 100. The numbers are crazy. In an encapsulated airplane, metal airplane. It's basically a microwave oven. So when someone is more stressed and sensitive, they're going to show those signs. And that's an EMF sensitivity. That's a high level. It's a level 2 stressor of EMF when you start getting bloody noses. That means your body is literally being attacked. So 3/4 of the way through the flight, everyone falls asleep. Half the people wake up at that time. The kid's still sleeping. He gets a bloody nose while he's sleeping. and his glucose goes up 100 points when half the people turn on the flight. So she saw it twice during that flight. So I fly in airplanes, but I know that environment is challenging. It messes with the glucose of our body. That's why on athleticism.com, we rolled out an MCT oil, lean oil. MCT buffers the glucose spiking from the wireless signals. And I carry the grounding bags with me. I've been doing the fascial maneuvers and rehydrating as well. Last year, I got sick without flying with the grounding bags. I just had a mini in my pocket. I thought it would be enough, and it wasn't. And this year, I started loading up on these, but then I flew to Cancun. I couldn't have them with me. And so I had to check all of them, and I didn't get sick. It was the first time when I went to visit Human Garage in Cancun where I flew without the grounding bags. I didn't get sick because I've been doing the fascial maneuvers. So we can all heal, everybody. We can build our life force up to where it doesn't affect us. And we can convert these one directional waveforms through intent. And that's the wizardry of Shaolin monks will do, where they can convert these waveforms. We can do it as well through intent. We can ground through intent. We can do so much, but you got to have a strong fortitude and foundation, and you have to train it to be able to do all that.
Man, so that's crazy, especially with the airplanes. So would you say it's fair to say that like when people think they're traveling, that it's not from somebody coughing at the airplane in the airplane, but more so from all this like how you just explained in this metal box in this microwave environment?
Definitely.
Definitely.
There's never, ever in the history of Western medicine has a virus been isolated and proven to be the cause of dis-ease. It's all about the environment. Dr. Tom Cowan, drtomcowan.com, he's a big reseller of our EMF Rocks grounding bags. In the beginning of the pandemic, he goes on, he was at a medical conference. He's a medical doctor by trade. He's retired his license, or they took it away, one or the other. He's a farmer, a regenerative farmer now, and sells incredible products on his site. He had a video that went viral, and I'm happy to connect you with him as well. This video was taken at a medical conference. Someone said, "Hey, I want you to get up and speak about the coronavirus." And he said, "Okay." And he had a room full of doctors, all medical doctors. And he said, "Guys, I want to ask you 3 questions. Number 1, if you're studying dolphins, they're healthy as can be, and all of a sudden in 2021, they get sick, raise your hand if 1, you're going to say, that dolphin gave that dolphin a virus." And most of them raised their hands. And he said, or number 2, raise your hand if you're going to say in 2021, there's a genetic mutation where they all just get sick because of their genes. And he tried to preempt people from raising their hands. He said, no, that would be stupid. But there are a few guys that raise their hands. And then the third thing he said, or are you going to look at their water and their environment and say, is some factor polluting their environment? Was there an oil spill? Did someone pollute their water? And he said it less diplomatically than I did, but that was the aha moment where every one of the doctors are like, okay, we got to look at our environment. If we mess with our environment, that messes with our body. Our body adapts to that environment. So anyhow, that's where we get bioterrain over germ theory, because everybody's bodies adapt when they need to at the level they're capable.
What would you say to somebody who says, my child is sick from school and comes home and then the whole family gets sick?
Yeah, again, that's the bioterrain theory. And I think there's subconscious challenges too. I think there's frequencies. Everything has a resonance. So I don't believe in pathogenic contagions because they've never been proven in science, but I believe that I understand that concept. Like I kissed a girl, I got mono. Like there's touch components. People get STDs, there's families get sick all at one time. There's emotional stuff. There's environmental things. Read his book, The Contagion Myth. It covers every one of those different topics, every form of dis-ease, and correlates it with an environmental toxin most of the time. There's also resonances, and fears. So I feel if someone's has a frequency of being sick, someone else can pick up that frequency because we're all one. We're all connected through these scalar waves. We're our biofields go out about 6 to 8 feet, but it's from our fascia that extends in the biofields that extends into the air and the ether and the plasma. We communicate at levels that we don't even know of how we communicate. So,
especially with your partner, I've done this before where you can trigger my wife having back pain if I just talk about it enough, where she can feel the back pain eventually. And same with the kids. Like I was just asking this stupid question because I couldn't ever argue that I wasn't in the same environment as my children when they got sick. I wasn't like in the mountains and then I got back home and got sick. Like, no, I was in the same environment. I was exposed to the same toxins and then we all got sick. But then it's very easy to blame it on like he brought the sickness into the house. But when you look at it very specifically, I could have never, I've never been able to trace it, like you said, from one person to the next person.
Yeah. And I look at it from one of the studies he shows, and they show in the book, The Contagion Myth by Dr. Tom Cowan. I think it went over it in Invisible Rainbow, if I'm not mistaken. But they were studying chickenpox, and I got it when I was a kid, and I remember my mom was like, "Go to their house, touch it when you're at school, touch him, this, hey, he'll come over here." Well, he came over to our house. I've like touched the thing. I'm like, "Oh, this is weird. It's creepy." I never got it. And then when I went to his house, she's like, "Okay, you got to go to his house. You got to go to his house. You got to get you." Well, they had just put wallpaper up. The glue of the wallpaper was what everyone was getting chickenpox from. And so I didn't get it till I went into that environment where he got it.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
But that's what these medical doctors are saying.
Yeah. But imagine that would like debunk everything. The 6 feet, the isolation, and that's how they get their message through and their paranoia and their propaganda. And if that is not a thing anymore, then we can all hang out with each other. We can all touch each other and have conversation and all educate each other. And then everything falls apart. Everything that has, same with the narrative that the sun is bad for you. They've been pushing and pushing and pushing the same thing. Wash your hands, don't go out in the sun, to keep us all isolated and not connecting with each other.
That's right. And that is health in a nutshell: loving, touching, connecting, smiling. The most contagious thing on the planet is a smile. And we want to be together and connect to God and get grounded by nature. That's what healing is. And there are, from Tom Cowan to Zach Bush, Sherry Tenpenny, Kelly Brogan. These are all MDs, by the way. And so many more. The list goes on and on. I mean, I have dozens of them in my phone that I can call right away. Andrew Kaufman, he's a virologist. They all back this up with studies. And Tom Cowan actually said, "Send me, if you've ever isolated a virus, send it to me. I want to see it." And he's like, "I'll offer you." And he offered a huge sum of money, and no one could send him the right study that proved it. So he's on this mission to debunk that. And now Dr. Artis, do you know that name? Mm-hmm. So everyone find out Dr. Artis. He fills up like football stadiums full of people. His latest thing now is what he studied. It's brilliant, but he's follows the same suit of what we shared and what we've seen. And the latest thing is the nicotine is not addictive. It's something that they put into the tobacco that makes it addictive. So here we are thinking, tobacco was the worst thing on the planet, but no, it's all the chemicals that they put in it that made us sick and caused cancer. It's not the tobacco leaves themselves, because when you can get the clear ones, it connects to our nicotine receptors. It's probably one of the best things we could do for our health, which is crazy, is get clean tobacco in our system. Dr. Artist is the one that's bringing that to the forefront. All the smokers that got COVID, everyone was like, oh, the smokers are going to get erased. Well, no, they didn't get hit at all because they had nicotine in their system, and the COVID variant was going after those nicotine receptors. And so that's why those guys didn't get clipped. And everyone's like, oh, it's upper respiratory. Smokers are going to get hit the most. And they didn't because of the nicotine. The only reason it's carcinogenic, is because of all the chemicals that they're putting into them.
Are chemtrails real?
Yes, without a doubt. They're dropping barium, strontium, aluminum on us at record levels now. It used to be government contracts. I used to see them fly home in fleets. They used to fly in formation home. And I'm like, that's how I knew it was a government thing. Now they're private contracting them out.
Dang. So that's just another one of the toxins added to the list.
That's what's dehydrating us. So we look at the barium and strontium, that messes with the fascia, and that's where you get diatomaceous earth and Irish sea moss, and get the food grade diatomaceous earth that'll rehydrate your fascia. Again, the grounding bags will help create the protection with electromagnetic radiation, whether it's cell phones or Wi-Fi or smart meters, what have you, cell towers, because the radiation messes with our biofield. When we mess with our biofield, as Bruce Lipton will say, the chemistry in our body is secondary. So then we see a secondary effect of our body getting dehydrated as well.
Yeah, and I think that's very noticeable in today's society, where I don't think anybody can say that they never experience headaches or brain fog or their immune system being compromised. Because we do live in such a toxic environment.
Yeah, in every way. And again, Candy Can, we're on the same page on all this stuff. And what I've learned is that we've been lied to for every major industry across the board. It was the dental industry. Let's put mercury in our mouth, when the only other place on the planet you can put mercury is to dispose of it, toxic disposal. That's unbelievable. And it goes into the agriculture, to the cars, the electric car thing, even diesel. Clean diesel isn't carcinogenic. It's just not. I mean, we've been lied to in every single way.
Yeah, you want to tell a couple more lies? Like, we have sunscreen is a lie. The vaccination is a lie. We have that smoking is a lie, right? The whole smoking.
Tobacco, yeah.
Tobacco, red meat is a good one too. The isolation one, that one was a really good one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those are psyops.
Yeah. It's all pretty much a psyops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to unlearn. Cal Callahan has a podcast, The Great Unlearn. We got to unlearn. Like that is one of my favorite words for this whole genre. Everything we've been sold has been a sold a bill of goods. And all the list of medical doctors, from Tom Cowan and the list that I mentioned earlier, Andrew Kaufman, like all those guys, they were saying that they had to unlearn what they learned in medical school, because it was all funded by the pharmaceutical companies that made their textbooks. And that's what's happening in schools. I'm noticing it in my daughter's school, and I'm correcting the history and all the stuff I'm reading when I help her with some reading material. It's wild.
What would be some good steps if somebody's listening and they have gotten the COVID shot plus the boosters?
Yeah, definitely. And so many of us had. And the one thing is to not give your power away to it, to know that you're strong and our bodies are the most incredible self-healing machine that we've ever seen. Number one. So you don't fear it. It's just how much of that toxicity has filled your bucket up. And we want to just start to empty that bucket of toxicity out of your body. So get some cell core binders. They're heavy metal binders. There's just a regular binder. They'll bind stuff together. You get a bug bite, you take a binder. You have heavy metal poison, you take a binder with bentonite clay. And you can do through homeopathic doctors or get with like Cone Health Institute or Dr. Charlie Fagenholtz, like some guys that do stuff remotely. Get with great docs that do internal stuff that can help you flush that toxicity out of your system. I would also recommend, probably one of the most important things for everyone is to get your methylation pathways open. So you haven't been affected at all. Your methylation, you probably flush really well. And you probably didn't have a baseline really high level of metal. So I have Navy SEALs that I work with. One of them, the second shot put him in the ER 5 times, and he's an active SEAL, like deployed, and his layer of bucket of fullness was full from shooting his whole life, and he had lots of lead in his system, and the shots just tipped him over the edge, almost killed him. So we had to go through this whole process. I think tobacco is going to be one of the big ones that's helping one of my other clients that has long haul COVID get over it. And so get those nicotine receptors firing again, get some nicotine in them, and your vitality will jump up. It's phenomenal. I mean, I am blown away by that. So detox binders and get the tobacco, get the nicotine receptors going for COVID shots. Get grounded by nature. Like get outside into nature, touch a tree, hug a tree, climb a rock, put your body, have a picnic, lay down on the ground, put your body in a body of water.
Ocean,
Lakes, rivers, like any body of water, get out into them. Take in the resonance of the earth, get grounded by nature. It's free. It's one of the best things you could do to self-heal.
I agree. I love that it's for free because there's always this argument that holistic health or any of that is like only for the rich, but the sun is free, the rivers are there, the ocean is there. You can find something to ground yourself, or even just the earth. Yeah, go outside, take your shoes off, leave your phone at home, and just breathe.
Right. Take in. So remember, our body has different chakras. And are you familiar with the chakras of our body and the colors of each chakra?
Mm-hmm.
They're the same color and order of a rainbow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So we're basically a big rainbow, a holograph of light rainbow. And that's probably why you draw so much into the colors. It's your auras are just, you're connected to those colors that just feed your soul. So when we can feed our nutrients of our body, our auras, our biofield that feeds our body, and because we're this holograph of light, our bodies do really well getting into the green for the heart, and purple connects us to God. And so every area has a different color that's attached to it.
Yeah. That's why they want to attack the rainbow as well. I feel like they want to change the meaning of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Big psyop.
Yeah. It's I think you had a pride post, and you're like, this is pride. Pride is a little different than what they're touting as. I think it's really, our body is a holograph of light and that rainbow, and we do really well with those colors. So get out into nature and feed your chakras. the resonance of it. Use essential oils. My wife has an essential oil company called Campo Beauty, and we sell it on athleticism.com as well. But that is nature's resonance, literally, that you put right on. It's just, if you want energy, you get the neroli blend, and it has energy, and it fuses with energy. And you want focus, you have sandalwood, and you want to relax, you have lavender. She has every ethos and the sense stories that go along with it. Take in those resonances, feed your body those resonances. I think it's really, really important.
And what's the name of the company?
Campo, Campo, Campo
Okay.
Beauty. It's everyone's newest obsession for essential oils. Literally, no more perfumes, no more colognes, no more artificial fragrances with heavy metals in it. On your skin, which is your largest organ, now you can do pulse point roll-ons on your pulse points and infuse the benefits of the oil directly into you. And the second it hits you, it's so invigorating. And the smells, the sense stories are stunning. Like literally everyone will be obsessed with them.
We were talking about the muscle test, and I wonder if there is some sort of protocol you would do before attempting like a PR or a heavy snatch, because you have me have one of those bags on my chest and pound it. I wonder if there's something you would do or recommend for an athlete when going into competition or a very dreadful workout.
Definitely. And this is where I get all excited. I mean, the EMF stuff is a stressor that we have an incredible answer to with the grounding bags. When we get into the sports stuff, I mean, this is where I started in the business, is working with these guys. And Jerzy Gregorek was my Olympic lifting coach. Tim Ferriss made him famous. And so what we do with our athletes is we fire the nerves. So I would do some fascial maneuvers. I would reset nerves. So if I'm testing a bicep, that's a C6 nerve, I would turn on that nerve. Now you got to go to someone to do that typically, but that's what I would do with them. I would also make sure their energy systems are on go. And Ken, what I mean by that is cross crawl. So your baby, he's doing cross crawl energy. That's the energy pattern of our body. You can line up 10 athletes ready to compete, and you just say, hey, march in place. I guarantee at least one or two of them will go homolateral pattern, same arm, same leg. Those guys won't lift anything compared to the guys that are cross crawl. So you can do opposite arm, opposite leg, touch the opposite knee with the opposite hand. That'll start it off. And then the other thing, we use the grounding bags. What I showed you off camera is recharging the body. So the eyes, the teeth, the thymus, and intestines, we tap on the bag and cover that area. And that'll get the hole stronger. Essentially our bodies are only as strong as our weakest links, right? So we get all the weak links stronger and the hole becomes stronger. That's how, for me, I played basketball and I was able to ball up against guys twice my size. I'm 6'2", about 180, 185. And guys that were 200 pounds plus and way taller than me, I'd move them like without even thinking about it. It was just, I'd post up, lean in, and I could launch guys just through my energy, but I had no weak links. And with the grounding bags, you can get that no weak link feeling. So when you couple all those together, that's what a great doctor will do, or performance coach like me will do with an athlete before they go into competition. I'll make sure their level is level and their center is center, like longitude, latitude. So they know what's level and they know what's center. If they're off, they're going to be off on their lift. There's a lot to true performance with athletes.
Yeah, and it's more fun because it's not so much fear. I feel like, because the whole EMF thing, like, you can just, it makes you like go crazy where you just want to hide in the forest. with the athletic stuff, which I really love, is more it's about high performance and making you perform as good as possible, and it's more fun.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
When I wrote this book,
Mm-hmm.
what I was doing is it's whole body, whole brain equals performance. So I was going into the whole body exercises, coordination, running, jumping, skipping, bounding, shuffling. And then what I did is I went into the whole brain exercises, which would be the ambidexterity portion. So we're one of the only programs that actually has a true ambidexterity program where we teach people how to juggle, and we have multiple different things. So if you were into jiu-jitsu, like I teach like stick fighting, but we'll teach stick stuff too, because it's all ambidexterity. But with that book, I felt I had to add in the first section, which is awareness. And that's what we're doing, is we're raising the awareness of everyone on what the stressors are. The best and easiest way to get someone better is to clear the stressors out of their environment. The whole becomes stronger. And so I wanted to share in proper food, rest, exercise, nutrition, hydration, owning your power, proper quality, quantity, frequency of each. And it sounds redundant for a lot of people that are in the health space. Okay, I get it. But over the COVID era here, it was more important than ever for people to understand what their environment was and how they interplay with it. And now we know that we're one with nature. Now we know that we're bathed on scalar waves that are unpolarized. Because if I drop a pebble into a pond, does that wave go in a straight line to the right? No. If I'm dropping it perpendicular, it's a circular resonance, right? That goes out equally in every direction. That is the framework for our entire universe and how we interplay with it. But all this electricity stuff, it's all one directional. So it messes with us. So I had to add the awareness stuff in so we understand how to interplay with our environment to optimize our performance, longevity, and to heal. A lot of people just flat out need to heal.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening right now. There's a big healing movement because the COVID pushed everybody over the edge where enough is enough.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing and a curse, but I really I have to dive into this one, and I love the grounded by nature. I mean, this is really good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah, and my wife too. It's just so on point. It's short. It's precise. It doesn't talk around it, and it gives clear instruction how you can protect yourself and then what measurements to take. And I think this is what we need right now.
Yeah, and then the science is there to back it up. Bioinitiative.org has thousands of studies. There's so many studies. NIH has studies. I mean, so many industries. So we go over the studies that show what we're saying is true. And there's levels of ionizing versus non-ionizing. So this whole thermal effect, the governments are saying since 1996, that once we get to where it's ionizing, where it creates a thermal effect, oscillates your cells, and raises the temperature of your body, that's not okay. But anything below that, anything non-ionizing is okay. That's not true. We know that even low-level stuff causes a vibration that messes with our body. And anyone who's experiencing symptoms of level 1, which is all cognitive, lack of focus, memory, anxiety, stress, headaches, lack of sleep, all those behavioral challenges, that's all level 1 EMF stressors. And then level 2 would be the bloody noses, the non-trauma concussion symptoms, nausea, vomiting, seizures, muscle twitches, rashes on the skin. And then you go on the big. So all this stuff, no matter what level, it decharges our bodies, dehydrates us, leads to these level 1, 2, and 3 stressors that the body shows as signs of disease.
Do you have these as audio too?
Oh, not yet. Almost.
Okay.
I'm almost done.
That's always good too. because this generation doesn't read anymore. So
It'll come out by the end of the year. I've made that as a deliverable, so I'm halfway through them, and it's I keep getting sidetracked. So we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But they're great grabs and reads, great for a bookshelf, and
yeah, I mean, especially this one. I mean, this should be everywhere.
Yeah, we gotta unlearn all this stuff we've been talking about, and so I mean I really am excited to be able to get this out, and thank you for your voice and allowing us to share this, because it's so timely. We've never ever been radiated at this level. Essentially, what we're looking at is an Internet of Things on the Earth, satellites in solar system status above us, with these all the different companies sending satellites up in the air, and we're in the middle of it. That's essentially a microwave. We've never seen that before, ever in the history. So the next 140 years, we got to start to educate the masses, slow down this proliferation and rollout of non-native waveforms, especially in our air rights, and lean in, you guys, lean in. Again, get grounded by nature. It's our nature, because that's how we're going to be able to sleep, heal, and optimize. And I think a lot of your listeners, for sure, we want to be healthy, and we want to show our colors, and we want to live our fullest. And we want that health and vitality to do it. And these are the ways that we're going to be able to sustain that.
Awesome. All right, Justin. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I mean, I can't wait to listen back to this and use your EMF rocks. I mean, so far it's been incredible. It's made a big change. And and I really I did dive into the grounded by nature. And I've not into the athleticism. So this is next on my list.
Thank you. Yeah,
I can't wait, especially to see what it athletically does, to be like fully charged and fully ready to go. Like you said, especially for like how we talked snatch and clean.
Yeah, well, you're leaning in on Olympic lifting, like the O lifts, man. That's some big stuff. So you got to be on point on that, or you get yourself into trouble. So definitely, it'll be some fun information for you to take your game to the next level, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you, Candy Ken. Appreciate you.